um frozen. Okay, here we go. What's this? Maybe.
Good afternoon, guys. It's only 12:56, and so
Good afternoon.
Okay, good afternoon, good people. How's everyone doing? You can just give me a thumbs up. Ashley, you are so right. I cannot believe it's 1 p.m. already. It feels like I just got off the line with you guys. Took 1 or 2 quick calls, and then here we are. So hopefully you guys are seeing the screen that's up there. So give me a thumbs up if you can see the PowerPoint. I appreciate that. Yes, thank you, Kara. I just told these guys I can't work in this building with them because they're just way too loud. It just doesn't work. I'm so used to my own little space and my own little bubble. So I have to like turn around and give that mommy eye to the people behind me as I'm trying to welcome you on to this afternoon session. And so this is going to be slightly different than what we've done leading up into here, because I really want this to be an interactive conversation with you guys. And I want you to hear from people within your network more than you hear from me. So I am just going to give a really, really quick overview and set the tone for the conversation, but really, really use the chat. We'll be, having a presentation from one of our partner providers. And so just set your mind for this to be a conversation more than a presentation, right? So I did have a couple of slides, and I'll be supporting the PowerPoint slides of our provider. So the quick agenda, just welcoming you guys. We're going to review the equity statement, which, we should have been sharing throughout all of our presentations that came from internal, but we're just going to go over that really quickly. We're going to talk about priority populations. Lou's talked about that. Can you turn your speaker up? The priority populations, Luz gave a heads up about what that was. Then we're going to talk about the special populations collectively designed or defined by you all. So I'm really going to, is the echo gone, Grace? Okay. And so we're going to define that collectively. I am not as fancy as Haley with the polls, so we're really going to use the chat to be able to do that, and or people speak up, but really bouncing from those ideas. And then we're going to have the experience from the field, and so our friends over at the Hospital Center Connecticut Family Enrichment Center are going to present on some of the best practices and things that they've gleaned from their invaluable work that they've done in that community for the last, I'm not going to say the number of years, I'll leave that for them. And then we're going to create a plan for supporting these families, starting with this awesome chart that Haley came up with from the conversation that she had with you guys about training. So if you guys are with it, we can keep on moving. All right. So by way of setting the pace for the equity, the racial equity statement from the Office of Early Childhood. So we're thinking about the work that we're doing with this lens, right? So we're trying to be aware, we're trying to be accountable, and trying to be responsible. And so really thinking about continuing this commitment to advance equity and take a firm anti-racism stance within all the aspects of early childhood partnerships, policies, and programs. And so having the diverse communities, committees within the organization kind of help guide that from the inside. But then from with you guys really looking to look for you guys to kind of extend this thought and this feeling and this approach intentionally in the work that you guys are doing. And so so we're dismantling inequities, and we realize it requires a partnership with you guys and partnership with historically disenfranchised communities. And so I think that is evident in even the conversation that we're going to have today about our priority populations, right? And so driven to ensure parents and providers have the tools that they need to raise inclusive and empathetic children who are knowledgeable about issues of race. And so we're going to hopefully support you guys in this effort by providing these tools. And these slides will be made available to you guys after the session. And so you can start to, even pull this equity stance slide from this presentation and include this in some of the work that you're doing, whether it be at staff meetings and or presentations that you're completing in the community as well. And so by way of priority populations, Luz did a really amazing job talking about priority populations. And if you and folks should have received a copy of the policy manual, and on page 9, as it printed from my policy manual, gives a full-on breakdown of all of the priority populations that we're looking at. Specifically highlighted are those prenatal enrollments, mothers and fathers under the age of 20, mothers and fathers who come from racially ethnic communities disproportionately likely to experience adverse birth outcomes, women at highest risk for poor pregnancy outcomes and low birth weights as defined by the Center for Disease Control, which include Black, Puerto Rican, and/or American Indian, Alaskan Native women. And so it goes on to share those who have a history of child abuse or neglect, interactions with welfare services, treatment for substance abuse and treatment of substance abuse, those tobacco users. And so page 9 really goes into those priority populations that we're going to be looking at that extend beyond where we're looking to intentionally enroll, that are aligned with some of the outcomes measures that we have. Also drawing attention, as Luz did, to the father enrollment. And so really being intentional about enrolling, engaging, enrolling, and keeping men involved in this entire process. As people are coming in, I'm thanking you for putting your names and your agencies in the chat to support our attendance taking. And so those are the priority populations that we're talking about, that we have. And so now I want to stop talking and I want to kind of support more of an interactive piece of this. And so how do we define special populations? Like, who are those special, like if you had to think about who you would put in a category of a special population, like what would that family look like? Who would that be? And so I know folk are still doing their names and agencies, but go ahead and pop into the chat as well. And mine might be slightly delayed as I'm doing multiple things on my PC. So if there's anyone else on our team that's there and sees some things come through faster than I can. So how will we define special population? Who are those people? Just throw it in the chat. Teen mothers, yep. Who else? Oh, populations that need the most support, absolutely. Non-English speaking parents, undocumented individuals, parents with cognitive delays, absolutely, those underserved. So kind of, we're going to be doing a lot. We were just on a all staff meeting, and we're going to be doing a lot of diving into our research. And so it's going to be really interesting to see in the next couple of months, who are those that are underserved, right? Mothers of special needs children's, all Hispanic, not, yep, okay, high risk, developmental delays, disenfranchised, substance abuse, single fathers, right? Absolutely. Absolutely. If anyone is brave enough and wants to, you know, you can take yourself on, oh, parents with chronic illnesses, right? And so we put a lot of focus on the babes, but thinking about the parents with those chronic illnesses, who because of that are unable to parent at the level that they wish to, right? And how do we support them? That's a good one. That's one I haven't seen. Thank you for raising that, Keisha. Homeless, right? Misplaced, yep. Parents with mental and emotional issues, yep. Absolutely. And so what we're going to do from this is, oh, and there's so if anyone in Native populations, absolutely, Indigenous folk, grandparents raising their grandchildren, this is awesome. Please feel free to, if you are unable to use the chat, because I know there are some people, because of the wonkiness of medically fragile children, because of the wonkiness of teams, some people don't have access to the chat. And so please feel free to unmute yourself, and you can call out a particular population of people that you would deem special and we need to raise. So don't be shy. Okay, we're gonna gather for a little bit more. And so what we'll be doing after this is I'll go through the chat, and I'm gonna be pulling out all that you guys are saying to be able to kind of condense a list that we can bring back. And we're trying to figure out internally, like, what's the best way to push things back out to folk, right? And so if that is going to be on a list of concerns or questions or potential professional development opportunities, that we'll leave to the program liaisons to bring back up as they're doing active contract management calls, as an opportunity to individually, just hear the feedback of folk in a smaller venue. Families with communities marked by community violence, right? Absolutely. Our hearts go out to the Waterbury's community, where we know a 10-year-old was struck in the line of fire of a situation that had nothing to do with him, and so our babies are in harm's way. And so really thinking about that trauma, and it's not the trauma of just that 10-year-old in particular or their family, it's all of his classmates, right? And those kids coming home and telling their parents about what's going on, and the fear of just being on your porch. Thank you, Tracy, for raising that, because community violence is real in our state. A 16-year-old in the Hartford area was just gunned down, and so these are real issues that affect the entire community, the entire household. I thank you for this. This is exactly what we wanted. We wanted this kind of engagement to get at. We could sit in a room and think about who special populations are, but it's hearing the feedback from you guys to kind of determine what those families are and the types of support we need for you to support them. So thank you. I'm gonna move on, because our providing communities, foster parents, kids in care, right? Teen parents in foster care, supporting adults who went through the foster care system, right? That cycle. And so you see me going around because the screen is different here in the office than it is at home. And so I'm trying to get to where I can advance the slides, but I thank you guys for your input in this piece. So now, and I was trying to race through this because there is so much wonderful information that is going to be shared. And I know, as much as you guys love to hear my voice, it's like a song. You'd much rather hear the voices of your partners, like we did this morning with the team from UConn. And so, again, I quiet my mouth and turn it over to the Hospital of Central Connecticut to share their experience. And so it's a couple of people that you'll be hearing from. So it's really exciting. So I'll stop talking, turn my camera off, and I'll watch the chat for you guys, or you can watch yourselves to kind of answer questions, but I'm here to support, and I will advance slides. So you can just tell me to go ahead and advance, and I will.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jennifer, and we're so happy to be here. Good afternoon, everyone. So the Hospital of Central Connecticut, and take me to the next slide, Jen. Okay, these are our presenters today: myself, Melissa, Kira, Troy, and Nestor. And you'll be hearing from them a little bit as we go on here. Next slide, Jen. Okay, so wow, Jen said she wasn't going to mention the years, but this is always when we're asked to present or talk about something, I always take it, it's an opportunity to go back and reflect, right? And we've done so much that I couldn't put it all in the PowerPoint today, or even talk about it, because there's so much that we could share. But hopefully later on we could also, as we get questions, we could share a little bit more. But as I reflected the work that we're doing with the teens, I have to mention the the moms group, and this is mothers offering mother support. These groups were in existence for over 25 years here in New Britain. We provided transportation, childcare, a meal to share among them. And this was a time for the teen moms to be teens, right? That was a safe space for them to be able to just do activities, talk about the different topics, etc., just for them to be able to be themselves, besides, having a child. And although we no longer facilitate these groups, the philosophy of having of teens having a place to be teens supports that the work that we do with them today. We cannot forget that although they made a choice to parent, right? They're still teens, and it's important not to forget that when we work with them. So I think all of that has really supported, and especially, having a program manager that is a very, passionate about the work that we do with teens has supported that too. We're always having, talks to our providers or helping our providers, our partners understand the work that the special work that we have to do with teens, right? So we also support, provide some guidance and workshops and just informational sessions on how to work with teens, because there's a lot of controversial sometimes topics that come up that we have to just learn a little bit more about them and this special population. So it's just a snapshot of the history that we have, but it's, like I said, 25 years we've been, even before we started with the home visiting, the moms group was a place for the teens to come together and, like I have mentioned, be teens. We can't forget that. I continue to stress that. But that has also, that's always supported us. And the community connections, like I said, having the providers be able to work with us closely to understand the special population and the special needs they have. So I'm going to leave it up to Esther now to talk about a little bit about recruitment process and how do we connect with these teens.
Sorry, I started talking and I forgot to unmute myself. Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, Jennifer Wilder, and everyone that's participating in this panel today. Hola, ¿cómo están todos? And also would like to thank the Office of Early Childhood for giving us this opportunity. When Carmen talked about passing it over to me in recruitment, I am Esther Santana, the Community Outreach Coordinator. And I've been doing this for many years, so I don't want to say the amount of years. So it's very important when we do recruitment with teens. We need to be very mindful that teens are not adults yet, and we have to take into consideration that they're still in that development stage. So we need to treat them like what they are. They're teens developing. So with that also comes meeting them where they're at. So when I meet a student or a young mom, I always try to look at the hierarchy needs. So with that being said, it's mostly like, shelter, food, clothing, family support, school support, relationships. And the relationship could be they're co-parenting, maybe not co-parenting yet because they're still, prenatal. Going back a little bit, we get our referrals first from our hospital, the OBG clinic, our family birthplace, and then of course the connections in the community. It's very important, the connections in the community, because we need to be able to serve these young parents or these young teens. So when I say making these connections, I mean every provider in the community that serves teens. So when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about library like the Teen Center, the YWCA, the YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, OIC, PALS, Prudence Crandall, for they have a section with teens, Strive, Pathway Senderos, Local Prevention Council that works specific with youth prevention, and our New Britain Youth Coalition. These are some of the examples of when I talk about people that work with teens, and this is how we make that connection. We try to make that connection by maintaining a relationship, being consistent, and doing check-ins. Also, I do this by participating in anything or any event that these providers have in the community. So like example, we just had in New Britain, 2-day weekend where they had available tables and they had all kinds of services. So that's what I mean. Trying to participate in everything that has teens, because this is where we're going to get our teens. So that is very important. You need to know what is in your community. Not only that, but the expansion depending on where it's your catchment area. And another recruitment stuff too is our sister sites. You know, we maintain those relationships with our sister sites for transfers or vice versa. Either they're recruiting or we're transferring or they're transferring to us. And when I sit down with these teens, like I said, meeting them where they are is important because they sometimes have all these problems and stuff. And we want to be able to build that rapport, not just like talk to them about the service and here's the brochure. No, bring them a little bag with some goodies, candies. These teens are always hungry, some food, and you know, sitting down and talking with them. They don't want to sign papers. They don't want to do none of that. They just want somebody to listen. And that's something that I've been doing for years, is listening and listening. And then I might start a referral process. I might start linking them to other services. And then I offer services of the services that we have as a team. So like I said, it's very important maintaining these relationships in your community. Is really important to know your community. And most of all, knowing the needs of the teens. We know that teens nowadays are into everything, you know, social media and all kinds of stuff. So we need to know, we need to educate ourselves and being up to date, because I always hear it from my kids, oh, mom, you're old fashioned, or mom, that doesn't happen anymore. So sometimes I keep that in mind when I'm doing recruitment, because it's not just the numbers, it's serving families, and it's very important. And I take passion in that, in serving families, knowing that these teens are not adults, they're still developing. And with that development comes other issues, you know, the SEL and all that stuff. So I'm very proud to say that I work very well with teens, and not just me, but our team. So we are a team. So even if I don't know something, I always partner up with my coworkers, and the same as them with me. So I hope this has been helpful, and I'll pass it on to Melissa.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Melissa Mahoney. I work here at the Family Enrichment Center. I've been working here going on 9 years now, so I'm glad to be here, and I thank you all for joining me. So I'm here right now to talk about the high school connection that we have. Over the years, our center has been able to develop a relationship with the high school here in New Britain. We were able to establish a close relationship with the social workers there, in particular, the social worker for the SPPT program, which is a program that used to be at the high school that really was supporting pregnant and parenting teens. This relationship really benefited both the services at the high school and the services here at our center. The high school would send us referrals. We would coordinate groups for pregnant and parenting teens at the high school. Our team would meet with the school social worker regularly to get updates, to problem solve. We would share resources and coordinate services throughout our services and throughout the community. And it really was such a great benefit that, as me as a worker, a home visitor, was really helpful with being able to meet with the teams that I worked with at the school. We would do our visits, especially prenatally. We were able to do our visits, our home visits at the school during the school hours. And it was a huge benefit, and it was very successful. We really had a really high engagement when we were able to do that. Next slide, please, Jen. So engaging teens can be very difficult, right? We all lived through it, so we know. I read an article a while back that said adolescence is like gravity. It is much easier to work with it than to work against it. And I find that to be so true. Often we find ourselves trying to find a way to deal with teenagers and how to overcome what really is a natural part of that age group, right? And it can be very counterproductive to have that kind of thinking. Development in this age group is a normal part of life. It's also one of the most closely observed stages of life and closely studied. And we all really have great insight into that because we've all lived through it. We've all been teenagers ourselves. So we really want to consider how to work with teens through this normal part of development and work with that part of development versus working against it. So we've had a lot of success engaging the teens we work with using, I'm going to throw out some tips and strategies that we have found helpful in our work with teens. Hopefully some of these you may already know and be using, and hopefully there's something in here that you haven't thought of that will be useful. So one of the things I can really think of is asking for their opinion, giving them choices, involving them in making decisions. So when I'm on a home visit, say, hey, what do you want to work on next? You're getting towards the end of your pregnancy. Do you think we should work on birth planning, or do you want to, work on figuring out how to, swaddle a baby or put them in a car seat, or, prenatal attachment? Give them choices out there. When you're working on an activity, I thought we could do A, B, or C. Which one, piques your interest that you want to do? So that's really successful. Let them teach you, because teenagers love it when they know something that you don't, right? So I have a 12-year-old. He's not a teenager yet, but he loves it when he knows something that I don't. So let them share what they know and be excited about it, even if you already know. They're they're putting themselves out there with something. Be excited about it. Sometimes before discussing a topic, ask them what they know about it. Say, hey, what do you know about prenatal attachment? Do you know anything about this topic? And see what they already know. It's kind of empowering, and you can also validate that their experience and their thoughts in that. Also, another great way to really develop rapport and to kind of get a session going, get a visit going, is at the beginning of your home visit, ask them a question or make a statement about something that's in current pop culture. So I don't know, hey, what's going on with that Britney girl, or any good movies out there now that just came out. And it doesn't matter if you don't have an opinion on it, or if you may not even appreciate or really care whatever it is you're talking about, but putting that out there is a way to connect, and they're going to have enough to say about it. They're going to have their own opinion, and that's all you really need to kind of get conversation going. Also, be flexible, right? Teenagers, their world changes in a heartbeat sometimes, right? So sometimes having a little bit of extra flexibility and being aware of that really helps with engagement. While you're doing your visits, do something active. Because of the way, the teenage brain develops, involving teens in something active really increases the level of engagement. Walking, right? Going for a walk while you do your visit, especially prenatally. Doing something that involves moving your hands. So while you're having a discussion, kind of like what I'm doing now, I'm playing with my little ball here. Doing activity around that's about painting or drawing or whatever your prenatal activity you're doing that day, the stress ball, right? Something that involves moving their hands is going to help increase conversation and discussion. Also, giving them a challenge, okay? They like challenges, but it has to be in rewards, right? Especially if there is a reward or incentive attached to the challenge. Give them a challenge, but it needs to be realistic, okay? They have to believe that they have a chance at achieving it. So don't go and say, hey, if you don't miss any visits for the next 6 months, I got a reward for you. They're not even going to try to even attempt that. Okay. It's way too far out of their league. You got to do something a little bit more short term, something realistic, something that they believe that they can achieve and they can complete it. And of course, use technology. Texting, they love texting. They'd rather communicate through text than anything else. Sometimes we'll say, can we do the visit through text? But we can't. Visuals, videos, they love when I bring out visuals where their child or baby is at in the womb in a certain stage of development, showing those pictures. They really get excited about it. They want more. They want more of that. And then the last thing I think I want to share is for this particular, some strategies here is let them evaluate you. So every now and again, it doesn't hurt to say, hey, I just want to check in, how are our sessions going? How are our visits going? Is there anything I can do? Is there anything that I can do better? Or I can change up for you. So let them evaluate you. It kind of is empowering that they have a say and how you interact with them. And we have found, as much success in that. So you'll see some pictures here on the screen here. Some of the activities that, we have billions of, I have like 10,000 pictures on my phone. Half of them are, from these kind of activities. So there's so much we could share on here, but we have a few on here that we shared. One of them is the belly cast. When I started here almost 9 years ago, there wasn't a lot to do prenatally. We used PAT, so there was like a few activities you can do, but if you get a mom and they're like 5 weeks pregnant, you got a lot of weeks to fill. So we had to get really creative, and so we started doing the belly cast, and it was I love doing the belly cast. Whether I bring it to them and they do it with a partner, it's a way to bond with a baby, the way the mom and her partner can bond. And it can be a multi-week activity. So the next following week you can paint it, you can finish it. I've had one mom who actually laminated her ultrasound, and then cut out a little square in the belly and then put the ultrasound in the belly cast, so that when she hung it up, she could see the baby in her belly cast. And so it's things like that that really increase engagement, get them excited. Just knowing that we're going to be doing that towards the end of their pregnancy it's something to look forward to. And they really enjoy it. Another thing is we've done prenatal crosswords. So we've done like weekly crossword puzzles based upon their, what week they are in their pregnancy. Like I just mentioned before, week-to-week visuals. So being able to see what their child looks like in the womb. They love the color, the graphics, really. I have a book that I use that goes through each week and it shows it, and they love it. Also hands-on practice. They love the hands-on stuff. Show me how to swaddle a baby. Show me how to put the baby in the car seat. Things that, we might take for granted sometimes that they want to know and they want to do. So we have a life-size like baby doll that I think even cries and all that. And you could bring that out, and they love the interaction, being able to see how to burp, how to hold the baby, the proper positioning. They love that hands-on practice. We also have doing birth planning, right? Thinking about how they have control in some of that birth plan. They have control of what goes on in the hospital sometimes in certain elements, right? They have control over if they want music, who they want in the room, the lighting, things that they may not even think about that might get them excited, right? Things that they can plan for to help alleviate stress. Bio poems, we have them write letters to their baby. One of the pictures here shows them painting a little keepsake box. And they can do that to put something from their baby in there, whether it be a letter to the baby, or maybe they want to store their baby's first cut of hair or something. So things like that have been really successful. I enjoy doing those things with them, and my excitement shows, my energy really, they suck that up, and then I feel their energy changes, and it's a really great visit. So I want to, thank you for allowing me to talk about a few of these things. I know we'll answer any questions at the end, but right now I want to turn it over to Kara McPhee, who is our coordinator for specialized teen services. And next slide, Jen.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Melissa just said, my name is Kara McPhee, and I'm the coordinator of specialized teen services. This is a fairly new service that we're offering. It has been awarded to us from the Department of Public Health for some of the great work that we've done with teens in the past. This new service is a prevention service, and it is complementary to the home visiting service that we provide, all under the Family Enrichment Center. What it is it's support and education around the health and well-being of our teens in the New Britain community. Some of this support is in the form of short-term counseling, pregnancy prevention, counseling around depression and anxiety. Some of the education that is provided is in the form of groups within the New Britain High School. We talk about topics like healthy relationships, sexuality, STDs, and just things like how to be a good communicator. Some of this work is possible only through the close connection with the Hospital of Central Connecticut's OBGYN ambulatory clinic And along with that connection with the New Britain High School and working with Esther and the community outreach team, and also the close connection to Troy and the fatherhood work he does with the teens. Some of these connections you're hearing repeatedly in each one of our times presenting. It's all, everything that we do is all about the connections and the relationships we're making within the community. So we've been lucky enough to have great relationships within our communities, and that's how we were awarded this, extra funding to support prevention and do this great teen work. And that's about it. I'm sure there might be some questions. Feel free to ask some questions about the specialized teen services. And I'm gonna segue to Troy and his fatherhood work with the teens.
Hello, 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 and good afternoon to all. Is that other slide up? Let me just see here.
Someone stole control from me.
Oh, I can't see the slide. Anyway,
Is that no? You took control? Did you take control, Troy?
No.
Okay, someone did.
So.
Okay, let me try and share again.
I surely hope it wasn't me.
No worries. A couple of the slides. My name is Troy Ellison. I am the father support provider. Troy? Yep. Go to the next slide, please.
Okay, I gotcha.
Thank you.
Yep.
There you go. All right. Again, my name is Troy Ellison. Good afternoon to all. I am a family or father support provider here at the Family Enrichment Center. I've been currently in my role for a good 8 years now. Absolutely love working with teens and dads. Most of my recruitment process or our recruitment process comes within established relationships within the community. And when I say that is being out in the community at certain events. For me, what has worked is we've had Hoops for Homeless, where we had actual teens from the high school form a basketball team because I coach as well. And we were downtown actually involved in a community event. And this was, of course, pre-COVID. However, I did hear that Trunk or Treat is coming back. This is also a community event where we have the opportunity to dress up our vehicles in that Halloween theme. The families come out and we give them candy. So it's another way just to get out there, get your information out there. Another part of the recruitment and referral process is just with the families that we've worked with. I've had dads that started off as teens in high school and graduated and was with them through that whole process and actually graduated from my program that has reached back out to me and said, Troy, I think this dad or my cousin or whomever could utilize your services. So again, that recruitment process is really being out in the community, establishing relationships, partnerships, and your team members. Have gotten referrals from my very own team members, which I'm thankful for. The next slide in the middle there with the groups and activities, that is actually 2 teen parents right there in their 3rd trimester. That picture was taken actually last week. One of my colleagues and she works with the mom and I work with dad. We were able to establish a joint visit. And I think we accomplished so much more on the joint visit than we could have separately. Just involving them, that bag in the middle there, we had brought them the belly cast. A couple slides ago, you saw the mom and the dad. That was actually one of the dads that I work with and one of my colleagues that work with the mom. And we were able to partake in that belly cast engagement experience. It was one like no other. Kind of sad that I didn't do the belly cast myself. However, it is something that another activity that we utilize. We also utilize the shaken baby doll. Gives a lot of dads that insight on what happens when you shake the baby or when you are not maintaining the baby's head right. And better ways that we can support them through that process. We also have the empathy belly. I bring that out on visits. And oh my goodness. So I have to kind of give you a visual. It's an actual belly that the dads get to put on. It's about maybe good 30, 35 pounds. And it's filled with water. I put it on the dad, strap it on him, and I ask him to untie his shoes. So it gives him that actual visual of what mom is going through at some times when she can't tie her shoes and when she's asking dad, can you put my shoes on? I think that is just a hands-on, having those activities available, readily available for the team is vital. It gives those dads that visual, what mom is really going through. And that's what we want to give our teams and our dads and our families, is that visual, and support them and partner with them through that process. Also, I created the annual Father's Day cookout. Can't wait till we can get back out there and enjoy the outside atmosphere. Prior to COVID, we were engaging in one of the neighboring parks here in New Britain, and just coming out and just enjoying each other. Although it was a Father's Day cookout, I emphasize that they bring out the family, abuela, titi, tío, every cousin, just so we can see how they actually operate outside the home. Because mind you, most times we're going in their home. In regards to my support, I'm thankful to have had the Fatherhood Roundtable team. We get together on a monthly basis and kind of just dive in on what areas we can tap into the community. Some of us partner up. Some of us have the pleasure of even working with the inmate teen population, which is phenomenal, because they're parents too. And although they're incarcerated, they're going to be coming back out into society, and they need that parenting support as well. I've also had the chance to work hand in hand through the pandemic with Representative Bobby Sanchez, who is currently running for mayor right now in New Britain. He was very helpful in connecting me to areas that I possibly couldn't get into, i.e., more so like the court systems and their parenting logistics that they have there. So he was very helpful, very resourceful. I was thankful for that process and during that time. And lastly, I also have monthly support groups for dads that was created during the pandemic. This is a safe place for dads to come. Teen dads all the way up, there is no limit, but however, a lot of teen dads have been coming on because they want to get insights. It's a safe place for dads to come, share ideas off of each other. We have older dads, younger dads, so it really has grown. This month, we're actually going to be talking, actually tomorrow evening, we're going to be talking about the balance of work and family, and I think that's important. And also sharing apps, like one of my colleagues had shared earlier, a lot of these teens want to be involved on the techie side. So sharing apps, I have it's a pregnancy app that they get to follow throughout the pregnancy. It's not only for moms, for dads too, because a lot of our dads want to be involved but just don't know how. So supplying them with those tools, I think, is vital. And that gives me that chance to support them through that process and just keep on growing and watching them grow and excel and graduate from the program and continue. Because most times we see these teens and these families out in the real world after they have graduated from our program. And it's awesome just to see them continuing to thrive. So at this point, do we have, you can go to the next slide, Jen, please. Do we have any questions, comments? Please, we're ready to answer any questions or comments at this time.
Well, first and foremost, your email is requested. And so if you can drop your email, Troy, as a resource for folk in the chat, that would be awesome. He is a wealth of knowledge. I saw suggestions. Were there any direct questions to the team at THOCC first? And then we'll get to some of the thoughts that we had in terms of wrapping up with some of these ideas. And you guys feel free to unmute yourselves and ask the questions directly to these guys, or
Brenda has her hand up, but it's been up the entire time, so I'm not sure if she...
Oh, okay, Brenda, I apologize. We have a question. Brenda, do you have a question first? And if not, then we have D. Waters is asking, how long is the program leading up to graduation?
Who wants to answer that? Carmen?
I can answer that, Jennifer. It could be from 3 to 5 years.
Mm-hmm. It's in, and that is, this team uses PAT as a model.
Yes.
And so graduation for other folk may look different depending on the models that you have, but yeah.
Yes.
Ooh. So we'll read that out loud. We asked Troy, where did he purchase the belly? And so Troy, is there a link? I know the Office of Early Childhood just bought one for the prison work that we're doing. And Troy, you'll be pleased to hear that we have pickup from a box truck from DOC staff to pick up their bellies that are going to be transferred into the facilities and utilized in the training in-house in those facilities. So we have a place that we can share, but then Troy, what's the place that you guys order from, if you know off the top of your head, or if not?
I don't know off the top of my
Okay.
head. Maybe Carmen, or I think Jen had ordered it.
I think you told me where to get it from, so hopefully I can just share where I bought. Okay, so these are flying in, guys. I'm sorry. I'm doing so much smiling that I'm not paying attention. How do you address if the mom does not want dad involved, but dad wishes to be involved? That is a really great question.
I can answer that, Jennifer. We involve that as well, and it could be a separate case. So that enrollment process then will be handed to Troy to work with the dad, and of course we will assign for the mom to have a separate. And eventually, the goal is that at some point they are able to co-parent, peacefully. But we need to also be conscious and aware that we need to really be mindful of the history. They might be domestic violence and stuff and all that. So we need to be very careful with how we handle that, because at first, you hear hearsay, it's not. But when we're there and we make a better relationship, that meaning the home visitors, then we can establish, where is this coming from? You know how sometimes teens is, oh, they cheated on me or this and all that. But we need to be very mindful of domestic violence, and that's something that we take very seriously. And I'm sure Office of Early Childhood and all the other sites. So we need to be very careful with that. We have had cases the same way that parents are separate, and they do parent separate.
Awesome, thank you. There was a question from Dee about, is that what you're about to say, Ash? There's
Evelyn had a question a while ago.
Okay, I apologize. Thank you for paying.
Now that the hospital is no longer offering the service, who do they get services from?
I'm sorry if there was a misunderstanding. We are not offering the moms group as I described it, but we still offer the home visiting services. Does that answer the question, Evelyn?
And Evelyn, you can unmute if it's easier to speak.
For clarity of your question.
Look at all these questions. Wow.
I know, right? They keep flying in.
Carmen,
I think that answered it, since we didn't have her.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So we might be okay. So
I'm sorry, that was confusing.
So did your team create the prenatal workbook? Dee, there was a prenatal workbook that was worked on by the entire network when we had a different approach to how we did connecting with each other on a quarterly basis, monthly basis, by role. So there was a prenatal workbook created then with the help of a subcommittee. However, was the work that you guys were talking about separate and different, Carmen? Yeah.
So you mean the prenatal workbook?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So we did contribute to the prenatal workbook, Jen. Remember the
Yeah.
The blanket, the tie blanket that we did, that's another prenatal.
Yeah, I remember being on the subcommittee at some point. It seemed like a few years ago.
It
Yes.
was.
Contributing.
Hopefully that's what you're talking about, Dee. And I know we do have that electronically somewhere if you needed it. And so you can just reach out and we can get that to you guys. That could use much more support than he's getting. So Akeisha is making a point of sharing the need for supports for a teen dad that's in a halfway house in the Bridgeport area that could use some more support. And so maybe we can think through offline, because at the suggestion of a bunch of you guys further up about wraparound services statewide and some kind of support groups and kind of doing more work around that. So it feels like teen parents is something that, you know, not just because of a priority population, but because of this is just what's emerging, right? There needs to be a little bit more work. So maybe we could even think through, since that's one of my areas that I'll be working on moving forward. Maybe we could do like a little teen parent subcommittee that would be able to meet offline and think about some services intentionally for teen parents that could be helpful across the state. And so we can definitely look into something like that. Thank you, Walona, for your input there. Troy did add his email. Ashley, you raised the question for Evelyn. Is that you did that already, right?
Yes.
Okay. What pregnancy app do you use? We made mention of the app. What is the name of the app? And if we can drop that in the chat, that would be helpful for others.
I'll put it in now.
A question was asked about any other curriculum used along with PAT. Troy, you might be able to speak to some of the other curriculum that you use for dads in particular.
I know.
Go
Go ahead, Troy.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to mention another curriculum that we sometimes use. It's Partners for a Healthy Baby.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes that is a very attractive curriculum because it's diverse and the handouts are very colorful. And I know that for the teens, sometimes that's very, you know, they like all that. So that's another one that we use. And the handouts are mostly like PAT. We just kind of use them interchangeably. And they just kind of they give the same information, but different ways. Sometimes they're just really bullet points to the point, and that always, you know, that's always good for our teens. But we use those too.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Are you still using 24/7 Dads and Dr. Dads? And so
Yep,
those two other pieces that I know are used from them. We haven't, it's been years since we actually had the developer of that curriculum come out and do a training for our father-focused home visitors when I think the McVie funding first came on. And so maybe that's something that we might want to revisit, is looking at that. And I know like everyone said, PAT has some stuff that's specific for teen parents that could probably be used by other folks. I mean, it's just good handouts and good things. So maybe we'll do a different different approach to kind of sharing best practices in the same light that we did a handbook for prenatal handbook. Maybe we might think about doing some work around gathering some tools that we all are using to engage and encourage and support teen parents and do something similar to that.
You know, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I know we're running out of time, Jen. Another curriculum that we use, which is through PAT, but it's specifically working with the teens. And it could be purchased through PAT, and it's almost, they have similar of the handouts, but it's really focused on working with teens. We use that one and we found that very helpful. You know, this team is great at, like Melissa, I mean, they just, you know, we could spend another couple of hours just talking about all the activities that they do. And the activities, you know, it's not only fun, but as you know, that's how we engage them and they trust, and, you know, and then we also, provide the education piece. But these guys use, like Jenga, how to use, they use Jenga in order to just kind of review some of the information that they've received, child development. So there's a lot, and maybe that would be helpful, Jen. I don't know if anybody, all of us could put our ideas and, how to, all these activities that we do with the teens, because there's so much that we get creative with supporting them.
Okay, thank you. There's some questions around court orders, custody, and child support. We have in the past had representation from court support services come in and do some professional development. So maybe that's something that we revisit again. Thank you for raising that, because I think we're about due for that level of support. But I think the male home visitors, as well as some of the traditional home visitors, probably have encountered experiences where they supported the navigation of families through the court system. But we can, if that's a concern for a couple of you guys, we can potentially have like a little lunch and learn around court support services and custody issues in the state of Connecticut, because it's very different. So people could have had experiences on the states and come to Connecticut, and it's very different. And everyone's case looks very, very different. And so they can give you guidelines and approaches and protocol and policy to navigate through the system, but it really gets tough during those sessions because everybody says, we've got a dad that is dealing with this and dealing with that, and it gets very individual, but we can do that. So moving down, because you're right, we're like 3 minutes out, but both of these sessions have been so engaging that it's gone over time, right? Is there any program offering teen mom groups? So this is more out to the network itself. Are people doing that? Offering teen mom groups or teen parent groups in particular?
Well, in the community right now, we have someone offering Circle of Security, which is also, a parent group of support and stuff, but is working with the Circle of Security curriculum.
Okay, so Daisy asked, does OEC view involvement parents working separately as individual cases for the same child as accepted dual enrollment? That's a very good question. In the system currently, there is the opportunity to have two parents surrounding a child, so adding a caregiver. Ashley, help me out. How do we see, because we had to fix this in the system. Because right now, because that was a major concern with PAT a year back, and we had to like choose a primary caregiver and who was that person going to be associated with it, but it's not considered dual, especially when it's one agency working with that family, because it's not likely that they'd be two providers working with the family. And when the dual enrollment really comes in is when there's an agency A and an agency B that has two different models, but still doing home visiting and being served that way. When there are two adults in the household, and say a Troy is working with the dad individually and Kara's working with the mom individually, they're both able to go into the system and document their experiences. And then when it comes to reporting purposes, the family would decide who the primary is and who we'd have to do the reporting on.
If I may ask,
go
Jennifer,
ahead.
If I may ask, based on the question that was asked earlier, if a dad wants to be involved and the mother doesn't want the father to be involved, and let's say the father lives in New Britain and the mother lives in Hartford, so that would probably need two agencies to be involved for that same child, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
but we could work with you on that. It's because the way ECIS works, it looks at the caregiver.
It does.
And so you'd have to, we'll work with you on that if that is a true situation.
Okay, thank you.
Carmen, could you answer the question that some folks wanted to know where we order the belly?
I put it in there. I put the link in the conversation.
Thanks, Troy.
It's in there right now. The actual one that I have.
That you have. It's
Okay.
the same model.
That we have.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a good one. There's a question about gatekeeping. What to do if a mom/mother of the teen does not want the provider in the home? But I assume it's saying, but the mom wants the service. And so THOCC, you guys will be perfect to answer this question as you've been working with teen parents and gatekeeping of grandparents. So you go in, and grandma of the child, of the baby, index child is doing a little gatekeeping and doesn't want you guys in there, feel like they're doing a great job. Go ahead, Carmen. You're on mute, Carmen. Are you muted? Because I can't hear you. I see you trying. Oh,
And
no.
the teen.
Oh, there you go.
What we have done is, we've tried to connect with a grandmother, but if she wants nothing and she's okay, because sometimes is the home visitor going into the home that sometimes the grandmother really does not want to. That's when we take advantage of being able to go into the high school and we could still visit the mother. But we haven't had that many cases really. I mean, sometimes, we work a lot with the grandmother, talking to her a lot, getting her input, getting her permission to be able to at least serve the daughter, even if she doesn't want us in the home. And we start out like that, but later on the relationship develops and sometimes the mother seeks the support of the home visitor and then we're in there. But we don't get too many cases like that, but we really try to work with the grandmother to be able to help her understand too. And that's another, I love to talk about that because that's another dynamic that goes into when we go in and there's grandma and teen and we have to work with both because sometimes dad may not be in the picture, but grandma is. And so they are co-parenting. And I've done some work in the past with, supporting the grandmother, understand that she is co-parenting, and for them that concept is like, no, but they are. So we've worked with them in the past in trying to understand that concept and to, help her daughter be the mother, but also the teen. And that's what I was talking initially, that it's a balance there, but it's just a lot of, education and just supporting the family with the idea that, there's a teen, but she's a mother and that they are co-parenting because again, sometimes the dad is not involved at all. And even when he is, sometimes he's not in the home and there's other dynamics going on. So that is a really challenge, but Kara has done a great job, Melissa, and working, we have to include the parents, the grandmother, especially if she's both of them, but whoever is in there as the gatekeeper. Yes, we really, we almost do the same thing, kind of incentives, talking, yes, and just offering our support. And then they kind of see the value of the service that is not just for her daughter, but it's for the family.
Awesome. I think, Noreen, that got at what you were asking too, addressing the issue of minors needing parental consent. And so thank you, Carmen, for addressing that when you address the gatekeeping. The name of the curriculum in the chat, if you can throw that in there. Carmen, that would be awesome. The name of that last one with the beautiful images. If you can.
I put it in. Jennifer.
Okay, good.
Partners for a Healthy Baby.
Oh, yes. Okay, beautiful. And then the Baby Center app is in there. I have a great picture of Ashley in the pregnancy belly. And so if we want that, I can throw that in the chat. It's hilarious. She's actually doing a dance in it. We had to test it out ourselves, right? And so, Ashley, were there any other questions in the chat that we missed when we were addressing all of these things? I know, you know what? I didn't know. I didn't think we needed more than an hour to kind of start the conversation, because I knew it was going to be a little bit more of gleaning information and kind of suggestions from you guys, and then going back to the team and kind of thinking through how we should approach this. But I appreciate you guys sticking and staying. I wanted to share this awesome graphic that Haley came up with. This synthesized the lunch and learns and mini trainings based on the conversations that we had. And so this is just the start of it, but it's really consistent. Infant and adolescent mental health, some of the special populations that we talked about. Engagement of dads was up there, LGBTQIA families. And so, these are some of the things. So we'll take the start of this and we'll continue by putting in the suggestions that you guys had in terms of who the special populations are, and then see what we can do about some mini lunch and learn trainings, if that's okay with you guys. I think after this one, you would have been, we've zoomed out and teamed out for a little bit. So we'll take a bit of a break, and it'll give us enough time to kind of synthesize the information that we came up with on this call and then all of the other trainings as a team when we debrief, and then come up with some kind of mini lessons. And it feels like, our best experts are right here amongst the team. And so I'm excited to be able to hear from you guys and for you to be able to share all that you've learned. I'm seeing some other things in the capsule idea was awesome, right? Oh, cool. I'm excited about this, guys. So if, I want to be respectful of time. We're about 6 minutes over. And I am so thankful to the team over there at Hospital Central Connecticut for sharing of your time and of your expertise and of your ideas. And it feels like this is just the beginning of conversations. I heard intentionally around teen parents. So we might think about creating some kind of work group around some resources for them. But we'll continue this conversation amongst ourselves, right? And keep sending your program liaison some ideas. And then we'll follow up with the PowerPoint, as well as some of those resources attached. So I thank you guys, and I hope everybody has a wonderful afternoon. Love that, Lisa. I'm glad you're going to chair that work group, right? So it sounds like Lisa Campos has already volunteered to be the chair of the teen parent work group. So I'm excited.
Hey,
So you got some work to do, Lisa, right?
share with you, Lisa.
So awesome. And I heard Carmen second that. So, I just love that you guys are so willing to do this work. And so let's get to work, right?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have an
Good,
awesome
Jennifer.
afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye now.